Many thanks for joining us on Parastatal TV. I am your host, Paul K. Wanjiro, and this is Frontline. Now, today we talk about the Tourism Finance Corporation. Now, this is the organization that has a mandate of facilitating and also providing affordable development, funding, and advisory services. We are talking about long-term investments in the tourism industry. Now, today I am privileged to host the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Orumoi T. Jonah, who before his appointment earlier this year was the Head of Finance and ICT at the Kenya Tourism Board. Now, at KTB, he was charged with directing and also financing and ICT teams, business operations, and of course, strategic decisions, financing, planning, analysis, corporate systems, and management of the years in financial management system. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonah T. Orumoi. How are you, sir?
Absolutely fine. Thank you very much for the detailed introduction.
I'm so honored and privileged to be having you. Now, how would you describe yourself, probably for a person who's getting to hear about you for the first time?
Well, I'll actually say I'm more a person who's, I'm actually more someone who's actually outgoing, and I'm a leader who's out there to actually bring the better out of people, trying to find solutions for things, trying to work with people to actually create strong teams. I think I'll say I'm more a people's person and a people's leader in terms of exactly what I do, and basically in my field of finance and management.
Now, you've slightly been at TFC for well over 2 months now.
Yes.
According to you, I'm sure leadership mostly is all about return on investment. So tell us how you're responding to current and emerging needs of your customers and stakeholders, and of course the shareholders at TFC.
Many of the things that I will say for the last 2 months that we've actually been able to sit down to do with the team is, first of all, you remember it used to be called KTDC.
Yes.
So it's actually first, let us first talk about Tourism Finance Corporation, because a market out there is still thinking about KTDC. So that branding perspective to start coming out. If you actually see the last few months, a lot of information has been starting going out in terms of what do we do, be it on social media, actually when you go back to materials that are going out to the industry. And one thing that we've actually mainly got back to do is actually look at actually our funding model. How do we intend to see the funding model in future? So those are the quick wins which we actually now working around, and also to look at what are the tourism investment opportunities right now to drive this country in the next 10, 15 years. As you know, the institution was formed in 1965. So being in 1965, it's over 50 years old. So the wealth of information in this institution is quite large. So how do we actually just tweak that a little bit to be able to achieve the Vision 2030? Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So apart from the rebranding, I'm sure there are a couple of challenges that the institution has been facing for the past few years. And being the new man at the helm, how do you plan maybe to tackle the challenges of tomorrow?
The challenges for tomorrow, especially being a financial institution and being government, I actually look at them as opportunities. We are not like any other bank that will actually go and borrow money internationally at very high rates and being able to have a lot of demands with it. We have a right, we can pass through the national government, through our ministry, to be able to get concessional loans. And these concessionals can actually drive a quick return on investment on the economy. As you well know right now, tourism is one very key sector. Whilst it's not been performing because of other areas, we also need to change as TFC, look at what model do we need to start funding. Because if you look over the so many years, we've actually started funding hotels, and building a lot of hotels, bringing new chains into the country. So you have the Radisson Blues coming on board, we have the Kepiskins who have come on board. Now, where do we go from that? It's not just about hotels. It's about recreation facilities. It's about reducing poverty. Tourism is about reducing poverty. Because when you look at it, all the national parks, they're within more or less communities. So how do you actually make tourism become the actual wheel that actually turns around the economy, at the same time turns the livelihood of people? So that is something that, as we keep on going right now and looking forward, is something that we are actually putting a lot of effort into that to be able to achieve that. And we believe that with extremely good support from government and from a ministry which is there for us, we should be able to provide very, very marketable solutions, which not only will be for the private sector, it will also be for the communities who we, as you well know, Kenya relies heavily on tourism, and the communities that are there are central to that. So how do we actually have a package that at the same time drives that? And our solution is very simple. We will have to find also partners abroad who are willing to work with us. At the same time as we get concessional loans, work with these partners to actually drive an economic model for communities which actually need to benefit from tourism.
You've just mentioned that you have a couple of investments, innovative investments that have been financed by TFC. But you understand very well that TFC is not the only financing institution in the tourism industry. So I'd like to know, and maybe for those of us who are watching us from home, what makes TFC unique?
I think something about TFC which is really different from, be it the banks that you see out there or any other institution, is TFC, as we speak itself, with its mandate being a developing financial institution, is the second one in Africa. So it is the second one. The only place that we actually have such an institution again is South Africa, which has actually been able to work to develop the area. So we have a model that can actually make the sector actually grow. So it's an institution at the pillar of tourism itself. And in addition to that, we keep on offering the mortgages, the loans to the companies and the rest, you will find that, for example, our rates are very competitive. They're not like a bank. If you actually go to a bank now and you're a hotelier and you say you want to borrow a loan, they will tell you 21% to actually build your property. But what about tourism? Tourism is a very fragile industry, because it has to deal with perceptions. So you will find that banks actually rate tourism as a risk product to them, because by the time you build a hotel, by the time you complete the return on investment takes quite a while, about 7 years, 8 years. So with that, very few banks will actually take it up quickly because they know it's a risk element. So how do we come in? We come in and offer it at about 9 to 10%, and that is a rate that we are currently offering with those loans that we actually have to provide. So we actually bridge that gap throughout the sector and actually make people come on board. And we actually basically fund anything that will actually make anybody enjoy Kenya, from a small pub on the corner all the way to a Kempiski on the corner. We actually work with that. And those who we see the investment is very large, we also talk to them and find incentives in government to actually drive them. And we bring other partners on board. For example, TRA, we bring them on board to assist in the classification process when we're building the hotels. So even if they need letters to be written, for example, if they're importing hotel equipment, we actually in the fixtures and fittings for hotels. We also provide that support by working with the parent ministry to actually facilitate that investor from the beginning to the moment they actually open their doors. And as you well know, you know about Kenya Tourism Board. We have to work with them, because once we build the hotels, we have to sell that package to Kenya Tourism Board to actually start selling it. So it's a whole, as you can actually see, the sector itself and the ministry itself has actually been designed in a way that all these institutions are all interconnected in terms of what they actually do to the sector. And we are the only one ministry to say that is well connected like that. I don't think you can give me an example which is well connected like that.
No, yes, I agree. I'm sure you'll also agree with me. When you're in business, one of the greatest risks that you can take in business is not to take a risk itself. So I'll want to find out what are some of the risks that you're currently undertaking to push the institution to new frontiers in terms of partnerships, in terms of market share.
Yes, many of the things which we are coming up now, as people might look at, for example, county governments, is something for us, we don't term it as a risk but an opportunity, because at the same time with devolution comes with opportunities, and it come opportunities on sectors, especially on tourism, which were never before actually exposed. I can give you a very good example. When our minister went to open up Orumoi National Park, when you go to that section of Kenya, it wasn't that much developed. But with county government being on board, it's a risk we are taking as TFC to actually start investing in new areas that before were not actually so-called economic viable. And through that, is it when that will actually build up a very good economic model for all the counties.
Okay. So you're closely working with the county governments as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Which are some of the counties probably that you're working closely with?
The main counties that we've actually, which we were also part of meeting them, having meetings with them, one of them is Narok County is one of them, and we also have Mombasa County is another one. We've just been having discussion just the other day with Nakuru County on exactly what needs to be done to actually move Nakuru. As you well know, Nakuru has really grown over the few years, and very soon it will be actually a very big model of economy with all the industries and the agriculture sector that is growing there. So how can tourism actually be actually a key pillar for that? And we've actually met with them, and there's a few things we're working on to be able to build that. And also other areas that we are also opening up, or we've been a little bit also risky, is also going back to the financial sector, trying to talk to people. What products, for example, insurance companies, are you offering to the tourism stakeholders? Can we find a model of working that you actually provide an incentive working with us to provide affordable insurance for companies? Because you will actually see tourism plays a very key role in everyone's business. Today you had lunch, you never had it at home, you had it in a hotel in town. Sure. But he's actually paying insurance to run that business. So how can we create a model also with the insurance company and the financial sector per se to be able to create a good working ground and a good incentive? Another big area obviously is Nairobi County. Nairobi itself as a city has a lot of opportunities. It is where there's a lot of interaction both for the domestic and also for the international visitors. And so we're working with them to find a way, what do we need to invest in? And also other partners, especially PERAC is one of them, who we need to work with them to actually come up with solutions. How do we actually make the nightlife in Nairobi much better and fund opportunities and also recreation facilities in Nairobi?
Okay. I have to commend you. Been in the institution for only 2 months. Yes. Let's talk about sustainability, because at the moment you're really doing good, but I would want to know what's your plan maybe for the next 5 or 10 years? What kind of institution would you want to see?
I want to see a green institution. I think green is something that we need to build now. Yes. Kenya, since or before independence, has been known to be a green economy. Saying that is the wildlife and everything there has actually been looked at in Kenya. Even what the president just did last week on banning the ivory, conservation is something. And also just to say, for example, what the Energy Regulation Act has come on board, especially on the hospitality sector, requiring them to use, to do the water heating with solar energy and the rest. I think that is something we need to look at. And we want actually, during my time, I actually say, as we go on, especially where people have no access to electricity, especially tourism stakeholders who are running their hotels with diesel engines and the rest, can we find a solution for them which is green, which will actually make sure that whilst they are in the middle of the national park, it's also a green facility. So ecotourism is something which we really need to build in. Another sustainable model is, as you well know, we need to build local brands. We can say one big brand in Kenya which is growing really fast is, for example, Tamarind. Yeah, Hemingways. You see, they're actually brands which are growing. How can we actually have a Kenyan brand? Okay. And we need to work that when we are working closely with Brand Kenya on that, to actually make sure that as we think, because you will see that as an economy or tourism destination grows, bringing international brands is very key. We have now Radisson Blu, we have the Kempinskis, we have the Serenas. Now, how do we go now to the middle class and also bring brands and also make local brands that can be associated with Kenya?
Looking at the future, as we get to a conclusion, when you look at the future, the strategic plan, what's the outlook of the company? Probably, is your company built to last?
This company has been here since 1965. I think it's supposed to last as long as Kenya lasts.
Yes.
And we intend to develop a very big funding portfolio, which we are working with.
Yes.
And a very big credit line, which will actually feed the tourism sector. And we need to feed this sector to be so resilient. And resilience not only comes out with building hotels, it comes with building recreational facilities, it comes with building cable cars, it comes with building state-of-the-art convention centers. So how do we make sure that the hotels in Mombasa have something else to run to other than tourism? How do we actually make the domestic market actually go to Mombasa? Even marinas, for example, affordable marinas is something which we need to think about. Cruise, the cruise ships drives. That is something, it's not there in Kenya. There's no way that someone will actually enter a boat from Nyali and travel all the way to the other side of Ukunda and come back. Can we actually develop something for that and bring investors on board? That is one key thing, as I was earlier saying. One of the other things that we as tourism finance are supposed to do is provide investment opportunities for both locals and internationals. And very soon we'll start offering those opportunities that come out, that you'll find someone else will come up and say, I want to make a cruise itinerary just for Mombasa, maybe for dinners. So when someone actually sits there, instead of seeing Portuguese just inside on the island, you can actually see it as you go around Mombasa to actually see all the features of Mombasa. So that is something that will keep on building up, and we believe those are the things which will make this institution drive, because this institution is driven by the private sector and the community. So as long as we continue preserving the community on one side and be a very key institution in trying to build a strong community development approach through SMEs and the rest, hence reducing poverty to those communities, then conservation will work. And on the other hand, we have the private stakeholder, we have the investor, who's willing to actually put his money in the sector because he has confidence on how the sector has been performing. So that is a merge that we actually want to build in together, because it's all interlinked together. We are lucky that we are actually fortunate that many of the counties have come together, and we are working with them very closely.
Yes.
And they actually affirmed that during the devolution conference, to be able to drive tourism. As you well know, Kenya, predominantly every businessman. The started gauge railway will really change Kenya.
Yes.
It is a project which the government has really done a very big stride for Kenya. It will actually change the face of Kenya. It will change the dynamics of tourism in Kenya. This is the first time, even if it will be going at 80 kilometers an hour, someone can actually be able to be in Nairobi in the morning and in the next 4 hours be in Mombasa, but have actually seen the whole landscape in a matter of 4 hours. And with that, it opens two ways: opportunities of people to actually see what's out there, and on the road network. When you actually look at the whole standard gauge railway on the road network, there are stops. So those stops will be actually outlets which we want to capitalize on them on tourism, so that by the time those outlets are actually formed out, people can actually come out, for example, go to Savo National Park. You go to Savo East, or you can go to Savo West. And also the main stations in Nairobi and Mombasa will be very central for us, because we want that tourism feel. Even for the local person, as you wait for your train, you need actually to enjoy the products in Nairobi and the companies in Nairobi that can actually offer you a proper feel of how you can actually be able to benefit from tourism. So that all of that will come together with tourism opportunities and tourism information centers, and that is the arm that we're going to actually work on.
Excellent. Now, in conclusion, I would want you to look at that camera. This is your camera, and talk to Kenyans and tell them what they should expect from you as the new boss of the Tourism Finance Corporation.
Kenyans need to come and work with us. This is an only avenue in East and Central Africa that can actually be able to give you, as a Kenyan investor, individual, a community-based project, an opportunity to actually develop tourism agenda in Kenya. So we look forward to coming with you, to working with you. Our doors are open. Come to us. We'll offer you advice. We'll offer you loans. And we'll actually work with you on the journey to actually change the tourism sector.
Right, now that's the boss, that's the CEO of the Tourism Finance Corporation, Mr. Jonah Orumoi. And he has said, if you have an idea, if maybe you have a business plan in regards to tourism and how it can improve tourism in this country, the doors are open, you need to come in. And of course, you can find more information on their website, which is www.tourismfinance.go.ke. This has been Frontline for Parastatal TV. I am PK Wanjiru.